That's not just an STI 2011. That's what it says on the side. That's a bit different to normal. Yes, Marty from Marty Monsters Armory here. This is a good friend of mine's STI Edge. Now this started out life as just an all-blued frame, the STI normal polymer grip, a 38 super chambering. These are pretty much the original sights, I believe. But this one has had extensive work done. Pretty much everything you see on the gun is an addition. All of these other bits and pieces are add-ons to make this a completely customized STI Edge to be used in IPSC Standard Division. This is now running in major caliber. This is running a 357 SIG. Here in Australia we're not allowed to run 40. We have to run in 38 or under for IPSC. So this is 357 SIG, which is our means of running in major. Normally you could run 40 and 45. So what's an STI Edge? Well, it looks like a 1911 with a full-length dust cover under rail here and a double-stack magwell. Now this one obviously has got all the additions on it as well. This one's got some very, very big lightning cuts here in the slide just to make that front end a little bit lighter and the recoil a little bit less. It's got this rather huge magwell funnel on here. It's got some very, very aggressive grips here. The rear depression safety here is pinned, so that does not work. It's got a very, very large mag release button here, which helps just with reach. It's all been hard chromed on the sides. It has been hard chromed and then shot pinned on the top, so it's of a matte finish, no glare. Underneath is all chromed as well. It's got some relief cuts under the grip here. You can just see those there, so you can get your hand right up underneath, so you can get your hand the gun a little bit lower in your hand. Now, and of course it's got this big accelerator pedal forward hold it there, so when you're holding it, you can really get your thumb on there, push down on the front, so when you've got some extra recoil like a 357 SIG can create, you can really keep that front down and hold it really solid purchase. Now, these grips are a silicon carbide add-on, so they're very, very, very aggressive. It's got a stainless steel mainspring housing at the back here with that pinned safety. This is an STI stainless polished magwell. It's got an Ed Brown extended safety here on both sides, so it's got the double wings. Very, very nice, positive, very easy to use. It's not aggressive, it's nicely shaped. Of course, this is safety checked and completely empty. It has an SVI hammer, sear and disconnector and rear spring inside. These trigger parts, along with SVI interchangeable trigger, flat bar there, has been tuned to give this a pretty astounding trigger. Okay, it comes in at around about 2 pounds or so. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is, but as you can watch the trigger, that's all the movement there is, and that's very, very, very light. I can move that with barely touching it. From there, and that is the trigger movement. That is the maximum movement you get, and that trigger release is absolutely tiny. Here's my pinky. Absolutely minimal. 2.5 pounds. Fantastic target trigger. And with it having the flat front, not curved, it's exactly the same regardless of where your finger is, whether it's towards the top, towards the bottom. That flat bar never changes. Drilled and tapped on the side here for this front wing here. Got a bigger magazine release there, which just makes life a little bit easier. It's got an EGW extractor inside. Let me just lock the slide back. EGW extractor, which obviously helps with the 357. As we said, this is converted from 38 to 357, so the barrel has been reamed, and of course it has to have a different extractor and a tuned ejector to help with that changing. The top has had that flat cut put in it, as well as the sandblasting on the top there. It's got an EGW tungsten full-length guide rod. and it's currently running Wolf 16-pound recoil spring and a 17-pound mainspring, and all aided with an extended firing pin. Now, took a little bit of tuning from when this happened. As we said, this is not mine. This is a good friend of mine's. Took a little bit of tuning to make this work, both when it went from having all the custom stuff put in while still running as a 38 Super, and then when it went to 357 Sig, it had to be tuned again. A lot of that, however, was in the magazines. The magazines are still the original double stack STI, and they need to have the lips tuned to allow the slightly fatter case of the 40 case, which is obviously next to 357 Sig. And then once that was all kind of sorted, had some minor extractor or ejector issues just with that fatter case, but that is all working nicely now. This firearm shoots like an absolute dream. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is a very, very fat grip here. Obviously, that's to allow for the double stack magazine. And it's personal preference as to whether you like that big double stack. If you're a pure 1911ist, then you're not really going to like that double stack. If you are not a pure 1911ist and you're not all too concerned about what it is or where its heritage comes from, then you're probably more than likely going to very much enjoy it. I'm just getting out a 1911 here just to so you can compare the size of the grip. This is a Colt government model 1911 GI model, the GI sights. Now here's the comparison of the grip size for you. So even though this one does have the fat wide grips on it, you can see the extra thickness, but the main difference really is in the magazine well. That is the advantage of the 2011. Look how big that magazine well is. You can chuck that magazine in there and catch it with the mag well, whereas these can be really quite fiddly, as you'd all well know. Obviously, the other big difference between the 2011 and the 1911 is the full-length dust cover. It doesn't have the scalloping out of the traditional 1911. So, form factor, very, very similar. Same size, just a little bit bigger in the dimensions for that one there. This is currently running, as we said, major caliber and loading. With the loads that the owner is using, he's using, of course, homebrew, home loads to get this to working for competition. Far too expensive to run it with factory loads. These are running, they vary between 125 grain projectiles and 160 grain projectiles, going from anywhere between pretty much 1,050 foot per second for the 160s, up to around about the 1,250 foot per second for the 125 grains. Now, the calculations, as you probably well know, is your speed divided by the weight of the projectile, and that gives you your power factor, and that gives you your category of shoot for IPSC. A lot of the guys tend to go with the heavier projectile and the slower speeds, but some tend to go with the lighter projectile and the faster speeds. The 357 Sig, as you're probably aware, was designed to try and work as a semi-automatic, capable version of a 357 Magnum, which is predominantly the revolver round. Didn't necessarily get the market share and take off like they probably hoped when it was designed. It's very quick, but as a result, it's quite snappy. You get quite a lot of muzzle jump out of it. And a gun like this is tuned with these lightning strikes and weighted and balanced, big fat grip. Of course, that big forward, I call it accelerator pedal, thumb rest. You can keep that nose down. But the 357 Sig in Australia is very popular in IPSC purely because we can't run 40 and 45 for IPSC. Whereas I don't think it really took off to the extent they would like it to have done in the real world as far as self-defense and the rest of the world's usage of firearms. In Australia, it's purely competition, and the 357 Sig works very, very, very well. Well, that's just a wrap-up, basically, of this firearm. I'm not going to talk dollars with you, because that's the owner's, detail. But this is a fairly pricey firearm, talking quite a lot of money. It's probably worth well over double what it was to buy originally, purely because all the work, and the hard chroming, the shot peening, and all the very, very, very top brand parts. Ed Brown, EGW, Wolf, SVI is obviously the tuning and modifiable parts of STI. Alright guys, well, Marty Monster signing out and leaving you with this gorgeous STI Edge in 357 Sig, hard chromed.